What is this?
Oh, it's recording.
Okay.
This is fun.
Quiet, please. Remain quiet.
Please state your name for the jury.
Yes, my name is Leigh Rose.
And Mr. Rose, are you currently employed?
Yes, I'm the founder, owner, and curator of the Asmus Museum.
And what do you do as the owner of the Amsterdam Museum?
Well, I view the Asmus Museum as an opportunity for me to display my passion and my grandmother's passion for art. So I put all kinds of paintings up, I give tours of the museum, and I teach people about their history, where they came from, and everything else, things like that.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Now, are you familiar with the painting at the heart of this case, the steps of the Chapel Roan?
Yes, I am.
And can you please describe the steps of the Chapel Roan for the jury?
Yes, I could. So the painting began in 1912, and my great-grandfather, Callie Rose, finished it in 1917. And it has had a long, turbulent history, but I now own it as my museum.
Now, how did the painting go from your great-grandfather to you?
Well, at first it was passed down to my grandmother, Philo Rose, but then it was stolen sometime later, but now I own it.
And when was the painting stolen?
The painting was stolen around 1938.
And when did ownership of the painting then come to you?
2021, I believe it was.
And after claiming ownership of the painting, what was your next step with it?
Well, I immediately had it insured and then hung up beside my museum, Asmus Museum.
And what's the value of the steps of the Chapel Roan?
It's valued at $1.2 million, but to me, that painting is priceless.
Now, Mr. Rose, are you familiar with the defendant?
If there's an objection to that, what's the value? That's an opinion. What's your response?
What was it
When
valued
you
at?
ask what's the value of the steps of the Chapel Roan,
It's already been
Zoe
stipulated.
stood up,
Well,
said,
I mean,
It's already been
it's not that's already been stipulated. It's money. There's no
It's money.
opinion. There's no opinion with what the dollar amount is.
what the value of something is?
Well, I guess then rephrase the question.
I phrased it wrong. It should be, what was it valued at? Because he said he had it authenticated or appraised. So my next question is, what was it valued at?
Or just what's the
1.2
appraisal
million.
value?
What, did you say it was 1.2 million,
He
but that
did.
it's priceless?
He did.
Well, I mean, at that point, couldn't I just say it's been stipulated by both parties that it was 1.2 million?
Okay. You could just say, instead of asking the question, just say, Your Honor, it's been stipulated under stipulation 11 that the value of this painting is 1.2 million.
So you're saying without even asking that question, not even them objecting, I would just turn to the judge and say, Your Honor, it's been stipulated? Or if they object, that would be my response?
Ask the question, he gives the answer. If there's an objection, then
Okay.
you point to the stipulation 11.
Okay, I was just making sure.
Okay.
So after you had the painting valued, what was your next step with it?
Well, I had it insured and I hung it up beside my museum the very next. When I hung it up beside my museum.
Mr. Rose, are you familiar with the defendant in this case?
Unfortunately, yes.
And when did you first encounter the defendant?
Well, they first encountered it when they sent me an email on April 3rd.
And what did they reach out about via email?
Well, they wanted to borrow my steps of Chapel Roan for some art gallery.
And did you respond to the defendant?
Yes, I had, the very next day.
And if I showed you the emails between you and the defendant, would you recognize them?
Yes, I would.
Permission to approach the witness, Your Honor.
May.
Let the record reflect, I'm showing opposing counsel some previously marked as exhibits 5A, all the way through F. Now, do you recognize what I just handed you, Ms. Rose?
Yes, I do.
Now, and what are those?
These are the emails between me and Cohen Gray.
Now, when were each of these emails sent?
They were sent on, Exhibit 5A was sent on April 3rd, Exhibit 5B was sent on April 4th, Exhibit 5C was April 12th, 5D is the 12th, 5E is the 18th, and 5F is the 24th.
And just to clarify, is that during the month of May?
Yeah, April, actually.
And, I'm sorry, April. And are these two correct copies of the emails between you and Cohen Gray?
Yes, they are.
Have they been altered in any way since the last time you saw them?
No, they're not.
Your Honor, at this time, the prosecution moves to have what's been previously marked as exhibits 5A through F, entered into evidence as prosecution's exhibits 5A through F.
Any objection?
Object to hearsay.
How?
We don't know who these emails are between. Or, these emails are between Leigh Rose and another person.
Who's the other person?
Cohen Gray.
Your response?
Your Honor, if I may, this would be an exception to hearsay because Cohen Gray is a party client.
Defendant in section.
Your Honor, if I may, we don't know what kind of statements these are. We don't know if they fall into the criteria that allows them to be
Also, for that one, this is not hearsay, or it's an exception to hearsay for party opponent? Because I know that I get those mixed up
Well,
sometimes.
when you say it's not hearsay, then there are no exceptions to it. It's just not hearsay.
Okay.
If I'm saying, the son was, or I think of any hearsay statement, but that Hunter told me that he was, running with football. Okay, maybe I'm offering that not to show that Hunter was running with football, but that I had spoken to Hunter.
So it wouldn't be
So it's
hearsay
not-
when you're not offering it to prove the
But
truth?
to prove what the statement said.
Okay.
But
Okay.
you are offering these to prove.
Wouldn't it also be an exception to hearsay if it was like, well, originally it would be hearsay, but it's not because of this?
No, well, let's take it one at a time. You're saying, but you are offering these to prove that these events did take place, okay? You're not offering, just to say that they had conversations. You're offering to prove that they made these statements back and forth.
So
So it's
it's
not
an
that.
exception.
So it's an exception to the hearsay rule because these are emails between this witness and the defendant.
Again, underneath Rule 801 hearsay, what is considered and what is not considered hearsay, it does say into the rules that statements from the party opponent is not considered hearsay. So this would not be hearsay.
Oh,
Says it's not hearsay.
801.
Underneath hearsay.
That was the response that I was trying to get out of you.
Yeah, that's what like it's not hearsay.
Because it's not hearsay because it's already
Okay,
been
we
stipulated.
can just say it's not hearsay because it's opposing party under 801-2.
okay. All right.
Okay,
Then permission to publish to the jury?
you may.
All right. Now, looking at Exhibit 5A, please describe this for the jury.
Yes, so this is just the first email that Congress had sent me saying that they were recently at my museum and that they saw the steps of Chapel Rose, and they really loved my tour and how I explained about the painting's infamous history, how it was stolen and everything else, and that they wanted to borrow it for one of their art galleries.
Now, looking at Exhibit 5B, what was your response to this request?
Yes, so I responded back the next day saying, yes, I really appreciated their enthusiasm. I was enthralled that somebody else had a love for the steps of Chapel Rose like I did. I wouldn't be willing to give my priceless family artifact to some random stranger.
Did you say that in your email?
Well, I said I cannot see a reality in which I can send such a beloved painting to a stranger. So I couldn't give it to that random stranger. So I'd be willing to meet him at the steps of Chapel Rose at the Pink Pony Cafe tonight.
And I'd like to ask about that meeting with Miss Gray. What did you two discuss?
Well, we had discussed all sorts of things such as what they do, things like that, and we had talked about their art gallery. We had a lot of things to cover over, and mainly it was just over what was going to happen at this art gallery and if I was giving them the painting.
Now, after you had had that discussion in the meeting with Miss Gray, what was your new response to their proposal?
Well, I had to spend about a week thinking on it and debating whether I should be willing, would I be willing to give this to them. But I had decided about a week later that I would be willing to give them my painting for that art gallery, and that I'd be reaching out to my attorney and we'd be creating a lease agreement to hammer out some details.
And after meeting with Miss Gray, did you ever reach back out to them?
Yes, that was about a week later when I decided to do that and had my attorney with the contract ready.
All right. And now looking at Exhibit 5C, what did you say to Miss Gray?
I had said that, hey Cohen, as promised, I took a week to review your proposal and that they've convinced me I'd be willing to do it, and we'll need to hammer out some details on how you will be storing my painting and things like that, and how incredibly delicate the steps of Chapel Rose was. And I told them that attached below was our contract agreement.
Now, if I showed you that,
Stop. Okay, one thing, Hunter, I think what you're doing, I understand what you're doing, but I think you need to just say what the email,
I can do that.
just say what the email says.
All right.
Because you're then extrapolating a lot of information on top of it. A, it's taking time, and B, the email says what it says.
Yes.
So, can you describe to the jury Exhibit 5A. This is when Cohen first contacted me, introduced himself, and then the key thing you want to say is, you know, he told me, quote, I'm opening my own studio, picture this, several world famous, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, yeah.
Just quote directly from the email. Don't extrapolate as to your interpretation of what they're saying.
Well, so would you rather me just say, can you read the whole email? Because some of them
No.
are,
Some
you
of
just
them
want
you
me to
can,
say, this
some
was the
of them are
first
too
email,
long.
he reached out saying this is this.
I think you just say,
I can do that.
tell the jury, what is Exhibit 5A? This is when Cohen first contacted me, your answer. This is when Cohen Gray first contacted me saying he wanted my painting. Okay. Then what is Exhibit 5B? This is my response the next day after he contacted me. That's when I told him, you know, I'm interested, and we agreed to meet at the Pink Pony Cafe. Thank you. Then what is Exhibit 5C? Exhibit 5C is after we met at the Pink Pony Cafe, we talked about it. Then a week later, I emailed Cohen Gray back and told him, I'm interested in doing it. Let's talk about it and prepare a lease.
Yeah.
And then, see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of, we're taking way too much time.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I understand what
I
you're
understand
doing,
what you're
I understand,
doing.
but I understand what you're doing. I'm just saying, if time weren't a factor, okay, that would be fine. If we're gonna put a witness on for, you know, an hour and a half, all that information would be fine.
Okay.
But since